There have been several movies recently that haven't really appealed to me. I wanted to go and see the new Snow White, but the reviews have been so awful that I've actually avoided doing so. But one of the films that did get good reviews and actually won the Best Animated Feature Award, Oscar, at the Academy Awards this year was called Flow. So I went to that, and it is very good indeed. I must say I probably appreciated it more than most because being so deaf these days, the fact that there's no dialogue in it at all makes it even easier to watch. There's music, sound effects and so on. But it's a very well made, very good movie. It's not a great movie, but I would recommend it anyway. Flow, Flow. I've been going through all my cupboards, basically because not only a spring clean is going on, but also because I'm selling off all my vinyl records, and I have thousands and thousands of vinyl records going all the way back to the early 1960s, and I'm finding that they actually fetch quite a decent amount of money, sold off month by month. And they basically make up for the pension that I've had to spend on health issues, legal issues, which do tend to take up all of one's pension when one gets to be old. I am now 80. So I've been going through the cupboard and finding stuff. And one of the things I found is the CCRC are still examining my wrongful conviction from the year 2001, mainly because several trials since then have all resulted in not guilty verdicts, complete 100% acquittals, and even refusals to allow future retrials of clearly lying bits of evidence and complaints made. So I'm fairly interested in that, chasing up the CCRC, saying they really should get that done. It's 25 years now, coming up for 25 years since I originally applied to have that conviction quashed. And I came across this, which was sent to them in the very early days, this enormous, huge, great folder full of information, all of which has evidence. Just let me tell you, it's quite interesting. One of the all the dates in the indictment of my 2001 indictment, all the claims that were made, most of them had the dates changed in court after we proved I couldn't have committed the crimes in the original dates they made. So as I said, they changed, I think, 4 out of the 6 claims. And they changed the dates, fair enough, if they needed to. But what I found outrageous and couldn't believe and actually said in court, excuse me, can I please have time now to find similar alibis and evidence that I had not committed the crimes in the new time frames? And the court said, no, it's automatic, judicial things. We just change the dates and then it goes to the jury. And the jury found me guilty because they hadn't heard any evidence that I couldn't have committed the crimes at the later dates either. One of the liars in my original trial had claimed that he was 13 when he first met me. And he said he came up to me in a supermarket where he was with his parents and told me how much he loved my TV series No Limits. Well, we were able to prove that No Limits had not been made or aired until a year later, when he was 14. So the date had to be changed to that. We then went to prove that those dates were wrong, which we managed to do. And they changed it again to a year later than that. In fact, more specific, because in those days the dates were very specific. Now, the dates in the new indictment were from the 6th of September 1985 to the 9th of September 1985. Since then, remember this was 2001, the police and prosecution have been clever enough to realise it's much better if they say from January the 1st to December the 31st, because that covers an entire year and nobody can prove where they were for an entire year. But back then, the police hadn't sussed that and just changed it to that from the 6th of September to the 9th of September 1985. Incidentally, on the indictment, it said still when he was 13, which of course he wouldn't have been 15 or 16. But they didn't change that, which I find, how can you be found guilty of something that is clearly impossible when the dates don't fit the age anymore? Anyway, when I came out of prison and I started making complaints about the dates being changed and not being able to find an alternative alibi, started to try and find alternative alibis. And indeed, I found that on the 5th of September, I went to around then, I think I went to a Bruce Springsteen stadium gig in Giant Stadium. I was with Capital DJ Roger Scott. I wrote about it in my column in The Sun on September the 5th. On the September the 6th, the first of the new dates, I had lunch with my American accountant and we had the credit card slip and a note. I took my friend Ursula Kenny, who, the sister of Mary Kenny, who worked at the BBC in New York, to see a new film that had opened then called Back to the Future. And that was on the 7th. And then on the 8th, I went to the US Open men's tennis final. I was a huge fan of Yvonne Lendl, who went on to win, by the way. And there's evidence about that, tickets and all the rest. And then on the 9th of September, I flew back to London, arriving in the late evening on Pan Clipper to Clipper class, and I've got the ticket and the stamps in the passport and everything else. All of that was put to the CCRC, along with the fact that I said, isn't it surely completely unfair that I wasn't allowed time to find these alibis during my trial? The judge should have put a postponement on the trial of a couple of weeks and allowed me to find evidence. I would have found this evidence and brought witnesses to the court and so on, and the jury would almost certainly have acquitted me, because they couldn't change the dates for a third time and said, oh, it was a week later or a year later or 2 months later or whatever. So that's just something I've discovered now going through the old cupboards, and I've sent it off to the CCRC. But what I find most amazing is that the CCRC just accepted the fact. What they said was, when doesn't matter. It's whether it happened that mattered. And the jury believed it happened, and therefore it was a fair trial. And I go, hang on, this is a case involving the age of consent. It is perfectly possible that even if I had done something with it, which, by the way, I hadn't, they could have been over 16, which eventually it proved to be a legal age limit. So I can't understand how the CCRC turned this down when I had this and many other points almost 20 years ago. Hopefully they will now, after Malkinson and the post office scandal and all the rest, decide to allow my appeal to be heard by the Court of Appeal. Sorry to waffle on. Do go and see Flow if you get the chance, if you like a really creative animated feature.